If you're getting started with Python, you have definitely been here. You write some code, it looks absolutely perfect, you hit run, and crash. Well, today we're going to tackle two of the most common traps that catch new programmers, the sneaky little indent and the forgotten colon.
You know the feeling, right? You've got a few lines of code on the screen, it looks clean, it seems logical, it should work, and then, bam, an error message pops up out of nowhere. It's so frustrating, and we're about to dig into exactly why this happens so often in Python.
So one of the best things about Python is its clean, super readable look. You don't have all those messy curly braces or semicolons everywhere. But that beautiful simplicity, it's all built on a set of very, very strict rules about structure. And if you miss one of those rules, even by a tiny bit, the whole thing can fall apart.
Okay, our first roadblock, the unnecessary indent. Now, in a lot of other programming languages, those spaces you put at the start of a line are just for show, right? To make things look tidy. Not in Python. Nope. Here, that white space is everything. It's actually part of the language's grammar.
I mean, just look at how small this mistake is. The code on the left is a simple print statement, but it has one single extra space at the beginning. That tiny little space is enough for Python to just throw its hands up and give you an error. It literally doesn't understand what you're asking it to do.
This kind of crash is called a syntax error. The best way to think about it is like a grammar mistake in a sentence. You know, if I said, ran the dog fast, you'd understand something was wrong with the order. Python sees that unexpected indent and does the same thing. It can't even start running the program because the instructions just don't follow its rules of grammar.
But here's where it gets a little trickier. Not all indentation mistakes will crash your program right away. Oh no, some are much sneakier. They'll let the program run, but they'll make it do things you totally didn't expect, leading to these really hard-to-find bugs.
And this is a perfect example of one of those sneaky bugs. On the left, see how the print parentheses loop finish line is indented? Well, Python thinks that means it belongs inside the loop. And the result? You get loop finished printed over and over and over again. But by just unindenting that one line, like you see on the right, it now works correctly. It runs just once after the whole loop is done.
This is what we call a logical error. The syntax is fine, so the program runs without crashing, but the logic is wrong. It's not doing what you want it to do. And honestly, these are often the toughest bugs to track down because the computer is technically doing exactly what you told it to, even if it's not what you meant. All right, let's switch gears to our second common problem. This one's even smaller than a space, but it's just as powerful and just as likely to stop your code dead in its tracks. I'm talking about forgetting the mighty colon.
Take a look at this if statement. The code on the left looks almost perfect, right? But it's missing that one critical character at the end. Without that colon, Python has no idea that a new block of code is supposed to start on the next line. And the result? You guessed it, another syntax error that stops your program before it even gets going.
And this is the core rule to remember. Any statement that introduces a new, indented block of code, we're talking if, for, while, or even defining a function with def, it has to end with a colon. It's a signal. It's not optional. It's basically you telling the Python interpreter, hey, get ready, the code that belongs to this statement is coming up next.
Okay, so we've seen the problems, we've felt the frustration, so how do we actually avoid them? Let's put everything we've talked about into a simple, straightforward rulebook you can use to write much cleaner, error-free code right from the get-go. So here's your cheat sheet. Rule number 1, only indent when you're starting a new code block, like right after an if or a for loop. Rule 2, any other extra indentation is just going to cause an error, so don't do it. Rule 3, when you're done with a loop or a conditional, make sure you unindent to show you're moving on. And finally, Rule 4. Every single statement that starts one of these blocks has to end with a colon. If you can get these down, your code will work better and be way easier to read. Now you might be sitting there thinking, wow, Python is just being really picky with all these little rules. But there's actually a much bigger idea at play here.
The really crucial point is that these rules about indents and colons aren't just there to make your life harder. They are the very things that make Python so famous for being readable. By forcing you to structure your code in a certain visual way, Python makes sure that the way your code looks is exactly how it works. This actually gets rid of a ton of bugs that are common in other languages.
So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This structure stuff, it isn't just about preventing crashes. The way you organize your code, it tells a story. So the question you should ask yourself isn't just, does my code run? But does it clearly communicate what it's trying to do? How can you use that structure to create real meaning in your code?